Persona 3 changed a lot of things when it originally released on the PS2. It added a new calendar system, social links, and social stats. Many fans, including myself, love Persona 3, but it had its fair share of problems. Luckily for us, Atlus decided to completely remake Persona 3 and fix all the issues the other versions had. And while I do think Persona 3 Reload is the definitive version of Persona 3, I think it also has its own flaws. So, let's take a look at what this remake has to offer. And real quick, before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if you did it. Also be sure to check out the Discord server linked in the description below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about Persona 3, dog. Let's do it. Before I talk about the story and the characters, I want to talk about the gameplay first. There's multiple new features in this game that I want to talk about, but let's start off with the dungeon crawling aspects first. If you played the original, one of the first things you'll notice is that there's no longer a fatigue mechanic. Part of me is sad to see it go, but I think this change is for the better. This makes exploring Tartarus much more convenient. You'll be able to explore for however long you want, making it easier to level up party members and collect more personas. I also found Tartarus to be a lot more fun to explore. The original Persona 3's Tartarus felt like random blocks just kinda stuck together. It got boring pretty fast. And while it's still kinda sort of like that in Reload, the design of everything feels much more open and refreshing. Most floors are pretty different from the rest. It added a nice amount of variety. Tartarus is also full of breakable objects that can reward you with items. They aren't amazing items like somas or bead chains, but I appreciate their inclusion. Something that will offer great rewards, however, are the new monad doors. These doors can be found on different floors of Tartarus, and each door contains a mini-boss that's protecting some pretty good loot. I thought the inclusion of these doors was a good way to give you a bit more of a challenge in between the regular enemies. I was a little disappointed that the Paradigm door didn't return from Persona 3 Portable, but I think this is a very meaningful substitute. If we switch over to the combat, lots of improvements have been made. Persona 3 Reload has a new mechanic called Theurgy, which is pretty much an ultimate attack for each character. What's neat about these is that every character has different requirements to fill their meter, like how Yukari's Theurgy will fill faster if she uses healing skills. I think this new inclusion adds a lot of strategy to the combat. What's even cooler is that each character learns an extra Theurgy by the end of the game. However, for the protagonist, fusing two specific personas will allow him to learn a new Theurgy move. This is to replace the fusion spells from Persona 3 FES and Portable, and I think it's a cool way of bringing back those old skills. So, while I do like the Theurgy attacks, they can sometimes make battles feel way too easy. I felt like near the end of the game when I had both Theurgies for each character, I was able to defeat bosses without much difficulty. Still though, I really enjoyed their inclusion. Even if they are a little overpowered, I think they add a good amount of strategy to the combat. Plus, if you really don't like them, you can just choose not to use them, so it's pretty much a win-win for everyone. In addition to Theurgy skills, you can also perform a shift. This concept was introduced back in Persona 5, and I'm really glad the devs decided to bring it back. Every time you hit an enemy's weakness, you'll be able to give your action to another party member. This allows you to be a lot more creative in battle and create new strategies. One exclusion I do want to point out real quick are the co-op attacks. In Persona 3 Portable, sometimes a party member would offer to do a co-op attack. This would allow you to deal some extra damage to an enemy. I thought this made the combat a little bit more interesting, and I thought it was a little odd we didn't see a concept like this return. However, we did get shifting and Theurgy attacks added, so maybe the devs thought co-op attacks would make the game feel a little too easy. I'm not exactly disappointed about its removal, I just wanted to point that out. Moving on, the shuffle time mechanic also had some changes made to it. Now it works a lot like how it does in Persona 4 Golden, with each card being laid out in front of you. This makes choosing cards much easier after battle, so I'm glad they made this change. They also added new Arcana cards that give you different benefits as you explore. Benefits like dealing more all-out attack damage or being able to choose an extra card during the end of the next shuffle time. Overall, I'm glad these enhancements were made. It makes shuffle time feel a lot more engaging. Same thing with the combat. All things considered, the combat has seen nothing but improvements. I do kinda wish that technical damage made a comeback from Persona 5, but all the new abilities we have now more than make up for it. Lots of improvements have also been made to the free time activities as well. One problem Persona 3 Portable and FES had was after you maxed out your social stats, there kinda wasn't that much to do. Of course, you could still level up social links and go to Tartarus, but that was about it. And unfortunately, Reload still kind of has that problem. However, Reload adds lots of meaningful activities here. A little bit after Fuka joins the party, you gain access to cooking, reading, and watching TV, and these additions were really good to see. Not only do these activities award you with social stats, but party members also gain new skills for battle. For example, if you read manga with Junpei 3 times, he'll learn an ability that increases the damage of critical hits, and I think these activities were a great inclusion. I felt like I had to choose wisely what to spend my free time on, which is a feeling I wasn't very used to when I was playing Persona 3 Portable. What's even better is that these activities are still useful even after you unlock all the abilities for each party member. Reading and watching TV will raise social stats, and cooking will reward you with some pretty good recovery items. Something else that's new is the computer in the lounge. You can use the computer to run software that you buy in other stores. Most software has some pretty good benefits too, like raising your max SP and earning more money during part-time jobs. You can also buy PC software from the suspicious man at Club Escapade. I would highly encourage you to use the URLs he sells you. These URLs give you some pretty good abilities while exploring Tartarus, like being able to ambush enemies more easily and inflicting panic on enemies at the start of battle. So while activities at the dorm have seen a massive upgrade, I can't really say the same thing about the rest of the city. There are some new activities, but overall it's pretty much the same. Outside of raising social stats and the 2 nighttime social links, there's not really much to do in the evening. To be fair, everything I mentioned before with the dorm activities is stuff you'll most likely be doing at night, so it's not like there's absolutely nothing to do, but I was still hoping for a couple extra activities in the city. Something that did get me a little excited was the karaoke. This is a pastime you've been able to do in every version of Persona 3, but what got me excited was when I saw the option that said sing solo karaoke. When I saw this, the first thing that popped into my mind was, will I be able to sing karaoke with my party members? I thought that maybe singing with your party members would increase stats or level up an ability. However, as the game went on, I wasn't introduced to a feature like this. I honestly found this to be a bit of a wasted opportunity. Expanding on this activity would have been a pretty neat change to see, and it would have given you something new to do. Karaoke wasn't the only time I thought something wasn't used to its full potential, however. Once I gained access to the movie theater, I thought it might raise some Persona stats or give you a free level up, sort of like how it worked in Persona 4 Golden. However, all they do is raise social stats. I thought that it was a little strange, but when the film festival rolled around, I thought maybe then I could get some extra benefits, but sadly that was not the case, and all that happened was I was awarded with more social stats. Of course, it's not a complete waste. Raising your social stats is super important, but I was hoping to get a little something more from it. Reload also teased me with another activity early in the game. After Junpei joins your team, he takes you to the arcade, and a little bit after you arrive, he says it would be cool if you learned a new move at the arcade.
I was wondering, you think we could pick up some new moves from these fighting games? Can you imagine if we had, like, a super badass special attack?
So I was hoping maybe the arcade would work a little bit like the Jazz Club from Persona 5 Royal, or something like that. But as the game went on, I never saw anything like that, which I thought was a bit of a missed opportunity. What stings even more is that the game hinted at it earlier, so I don't think I'm crazy for hoping the arcade would be a little bit more important. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, and maybe I am a bit, but I was just hoping more activities would be more useful for other things. I kinda hate to do this, but let's take a look at Persona 5 for a second. That game was filled to the brim with meaningful activities for you to do in your free time. You could go to the gym to increase your HP, you could wash dirty clothes to get new armor, you could also go fishing to earn extra items and accessories, things like that. Whenever I played Persona 5, I almost always felt like there was something I could be doing. But with Persona 3 Reload, once I got to early November, I was kind of running out of things to do besides social links. What's bonkin', guys? This is editing RobinDunks, future RobinDunks. I'm kind of recording this while I'm recording everything else. I realized while I was recording all these lines that I kind of contradicted myself a little bit by saying with the new dorm activities, I felt like I had to choose carefully with what I'm spending my free time doing, and then I just now said that I'm running out of things to do. So I guess what I kind of mean to clear up some of the confusion was that I think the new dorm activities do give you like new meaningful ways to spend your time, but they didn't really last all that long, unlike Persona 5. With Persona 5, you were constantly being introduced to new things to do as the game went on, so that way you weren't getting bored or wasting your free time. But in Persona 3, I felt like the dorm activities were a good thing to do, a good way to spend your time, but then after a little while, like I said, once I got to November, it was kind of like, well, I finished all the dorm activities. A lot of my social links are kind of done or close to being done, so I was just kind of... That's kind of what I meant to say. I'm not trying to contradict myself by saying, oh, there's nothing to do, or it's full of things to do. It's kind of just, once you get to a certain point, those new things start to run out. That's all I wanted to say. Like I said before, they added a lot of useful new things like the dorm activities, but I think a few new pastimes during the evening would have helped out a lot. So overall, I do think this game does a solid job at giving you new things to do in your free time. The new dorm activities were a good addition, and I would love to see the concept return in another game. I do wish some of the older activities were expanded on and given new concepts, but like I've said 1,000 times before, the dorm activities are really good and make up for that. You might be wondering why I haven't talked about the social links. To my understanding, they work the exact same way as they did in the original Persona 3, so there isn't really much to talk about. I could be completely wrong, but I remember social links not doing much other than letting me fuse stronger personas. If I'm wrong, feel free to leave a comment. I'm sure you guys would anyway, but just feel free to. So, now that I've talked about everything that I wanted to with the gameplay, let's move over to the story and characters. I'm not going to talk about the story itself all that much. All things considered, it's pretty much the same, and multiple people have already covered it before. However, I do want to talk about some of the minor changes that were made to it. Some things in the original Persona 3 narrative just didn't fully sit right with me. For example, like how Akihiko and Mitsuru could just tell if someone had the potential to use a persona. More specifically in Fuka's case. Before Fuka joins C's, Akihiko mentions that Fuka has the potential. How does he know that? No clue, but in the remake, all they did was add an extra line of dialogue that completely clears that up.
Yamagishi? I think she's in Class E. I don't see her at school very much. She gets sick a lot from what I heard.
She was at the same hospital as me. That's how we found out about her.
That's all the explanation I needed. If Fuka was in the same hospital as Akihiko, he probably saw that she didn't turn into a coffin like everyone else. Boom, mystery solved. I'm fully aware a detail like that is pretty insignificant, but I'm glad they made that small change. It just helps with some of the more basic storytelling. This wasn't the only change that was made either. Ikutsuki also had some work done on him. I found his big reveal in the original to be shocking for sure, but his motivations were almost non-existent. He kinda just turned evil for a plot twist. But in Reload, he saw himself as the prince of the new world. He thought that he would be like a god after Nyx wiped everything out. It's not something groundbreaking or complicated, but it helps make him feel a little more complete. Strega also got a much needed makeover. Their motivations and ideas were much more fleshed out in Reload. There are multiple cutscenes and extra dialogue explaining why they're doing what they're doing. They had much more of a meaningful presence, and I found them to be way more interesting in Reload compared to the original. There were even times when Takaya would meet with you personally to try to change your mind about getting rid of the Dark Hour. I've said this before, but all these small changes just really help make the story feel more complete. Don't get me wrong, the original story was good, but these changes just help enhance the storytelling. Like I said earlier, the story is pretty much the exact same, so I'm not going to talk about all of it, but it has some really good changes that just make everything feel more complete compared to the original. Moving on to the characters, I really enjoyed them. As I was making my way through the story, it felt like all the characters' traits were cranked up to 11. Akihiko was more enthusiastic about working out, Junpei seemed to make a lot more jokes, and Ken wanted to seem more mature to the rest of the group. It keeps going. I honestly don't think this is a bad thing at all. It just made me enjoy the characters even more than I did before. Seeing more of their personalities made me like them just a little bit more. Everyone except Yukari. Yeah, sorry guys, I just don't like Yukari, and it honestly seemed like she was worse in the remake. When I started playing, I noticed Yukari wasn't always making rude comments to the other characters, so I thought they maybe toned her down in the remake. But as the game went on, she just got worse. I also noticed she would hit people a lot more often, which was a complete shock to me. She does have some moments that flesh her out a little bit more, and at times she was more enjoyable to be around, but those were few and far between. Moving on, I also felt like we learned some new information about these characters, especially Junpei. For example, during Ken's Link episode, we learned that Junpei used to play baseball as a kid. He also mentions this from time to time in the dorm. I don't know if this was a detail that I missed about him when I played Portable, but this was honestly a really cool detail to find out. It may not add much to the character, but I still think it's super cool they included more information about some of these characters. Surprisingly enough, I also kind of enjoyed the whole Junpei hating your guts thing. A little while in the story, it's made pretty clear that Junpei is jealous that Makoto gets to be the leader. This goes on for a little while until Junpei admits that he wasn't being fair and then apologizes. Even after this whole arc is over, Junpei says while they may have buried the hatchet, he still thinks he could be a better leader. This is something that I honestly really like. One problem I have with the Persona series is that everyone treats the main character like a god. Pretty much, no matter what, they'll be worshipped for doing almost nothing, and personally, I think it's a little annoying. So it's really refreshing to see a character that doesn't treat you like royalty all the time. Sure, Junpei apologized, but he still thinks he can do better, and it just makes him feel like a bit more of a complete character. Overall, the characters are pretty much the same with some minor tweaks, and I'm perfectly okay with that. These characters really didn't have that many problems in the first place, so changing them wasn't necessary. Before I wrap up the video, I want to go over some miscellaneous things I just wanted to mention. First of all, the OST. Persona games have always had an amazing OST, and Reload is no different. Color Your Night, Full Moon, Full Life, and It's Going Down Now are such amazing songs. When I played Persona 4 and 5, I got a little tired of listening to the same battle music over and over again. Not to say that they were bad songs, I had just heard them a lot. But I never got tired of listening to It's Going Down Now. After listening to it 1,000 times during my playthrough, it continued to be a really good song, and I honestly think that's pretty impressive. The older songs like Want to Be Close, When Moon Reaches Out Stars, and Iwatodai Dorm were remade really well. And oh my gosh, don't even get me started on Changing Seasons. It is so catchy. I don't know about you guys, but I could honestly listen to it for hours. I remember when Reload first released, some people were not fans of the fact that the lyrics to the dorm theme changed. I might be alone in this, but honestly, I like the new version more. In my opinion, the new version just fits a little bit better, but like I said, I could be alone in this. Something else that might just be a me thing is that I thought the first chunk of Tartarus was actually kinda scary. Call me a big baby if you want, but honestly, the first block of Tartarus feels like a horror game to me. I don't know if the devs designed it to feel more eerie or not, but it definitely feels scarier. And lastly, I really loved the voice acting. The original voice actors do a really good job, but oh man, the new ones deliver an amazing performance. When I first heard the new voices for Junpei and Akihiko, I was a little hesitant, but after playing through this game, they honestly fit really well. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Zeno Robinson easily had the best voice acting in the entire game. There were so many scenes that sounded like he really put his entire soul into some of those lines. Like I said, everyone else does a really good job, but dang, Zeno Robinson did amazing. Can we get a round of applause? Let's just all take a second. Round of applause. Round of applause for Zeno Robinson. I really do love him, actually. He's genuinely one of my favorite voice actors. I love Zeno Robinson. I also really liked the voice acting for Yuko. Before all the voice actors for Persona 3 Reload were revealed, I was really hoping Danny Chambers would voice Yuko. All things considered, I think I was the only person on the planet hoping for her to voice Yuko, but Shelby Young does a really great job. The second I heard her voice, I thought, yeah, this fits perfectly. And just like everyone else, she delivers a wonderful performance. Persona 3 Reload is a really great remake. It enhances the combat, the music, the characters, and so much more. And while I think the game is really good, it's not everything it could have been. I honestly feel like there were some areas that could have used some more expansion. Even if the game does have some problems, I would highly recommend Reload if someone asked which version of Persona 3 they should play. Pretty much everything about Reload is better than Festival and Portable, even if it is missing some content and features. The game may not be perfect, but I think it does a great job at reimagining the original game. It adds new elements that old fans will like and is more accessible to newcomers. So even if this game isn't perfect, I still think Persona 3 Reload is an amazing game. Alright, another video down. So I'm gonna do what I've kind of been doing for some of these last reviews and kind of just yap about some random stuff, and if you're not interested in that, you can just click off the video, do whatever. Before you go, like and subscribe, pretty please, that'd be so nice of you. I guess first and foremost, it's been a really, really long time since I've done a video. If you've been keeping up, you'll see that I made a video saying that I just wanted to take a break from content creation, and it was a really long break, but honestly, I think it really helped, because I have genuinely not been excited or glad to work on a video since like early 2023. I remember thinking, I woke up one day and I was like, I want to work on a video. So I started scripting something that I remembered, oh wait, I have a Persona 3 video that I started doing. I could finish that. And the script was done, and part of the voiceovers were done, so I was like, I'll continue that. And honestly, I was really glad doing that. I was like, I actually want to keep working on this video, which is a feeling I haven't had in a long time. Of course, I'm not saying I'm completely back in the swing of things. Like, I'm not gonna say you should be expecting more videos in the future, but I think maybe I will make some more in the future, honestly. I had fun working on this, so I think I might do another video in the future. I'm not going to promise anything, though. I think another video would be nice. I might do one, but I'm not fully back yet. I have a small feeling someone's going to mention this, so I'm just going to talk about it real quick. The only reason why I didn't talk about the answer is because I originally made this script back in late February. So that was around a couple weeks after this game came out. So after this game originally came out, the answer wasn't even a thing yet. So I couldn't have talked about it even if I wanted to. And I also haven't finished it yet. So there's also a factor. As I'm wrapping up, like I said a little bit ago, I'm not going to promise that I'm coming back. I just wanted to work on this video now because it just kind of seemed like fun. So maybe in the future I'll come back and make another one, but I'm not going to promise anything because I don't want to let you guys down or get your hopes up. But until then, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you, and I will see you all later.